Morning everyone. It's Wednesday, October 17th, 2018. 7:50 a.m. I'm going to work actually. I skipped breakfast and making sandwich. I'm gonna buy it at the store. This morning I didn't feel like doing the same old routine every time. And I'm not the one that especially likes to cook my lunch at work. I'd rather just have a sandwich ready to go. 30 minutes fly by within like a few seconds when you're having lunch at dinner time. So it's 30 minutes is very, very short. It's not my favorite amount of time to have dinner. I wouldn't mind working like having an hour lunch and working until 5. That I would not mind at all. Arigato. Thank you. So today's topic, I'm going to talk about peer pressure in fashion. Another thing, why we are failing at the game of life. Why is society failing at the game of life? Because people are falling for peer pressure in fashion. And what do I mean by peer pressure in fashion? Peer pressure means peer pressure applies from every group age, from when you're a kid to an adult. And when you're an adult is within your neighborhood or your family members or your friends, that they have things that you're jealous of and you want them, you would like to have the same things. It's within your financial means. It's yeah, go faster, idiot. It's within your financial means to have these things, but they're useless. They're these things that you envy other to have will just become financial burden. Oh, nice. They will just become a financial burden on the long run. And the more other people buy, the more you want the same thing, the more in debt you get, which come back to the circle of part 1 of this chapter of why society is failing at the game of life. This is part 5, I think. And when it comes to younger children, sometime they're going to be raised with the idea that they have to fit in a group, they have to be part of a gang, they need to have this many friends to be accepted, to fit in, and to be within the norms. Unfortunately, right now things work like that, but that's not how things work. You can be by yourself, do your own things, be happy by yourself without having to fit in a group, be part of a gang or part of a group or part of a friend groups or whatever. You don't need all these things. I explained that in another video that says, why do you need to belong to some group? Well, peer pressure and fashion. Some people, they just can't be their own self. They're sheep. They absolutely, positively need to follow someone else, be part of a group, or be part of the herd, like I usually say, and head out to the slaughterhouse. Slaughterhouse means any activity that they need to do, these kinds of things, they involve financial matters, which usually people don't necessarily have the funds to do it. This goes as well for like some of my customers. They want to have the biggest this, the biggest that on their ATV. They prepare a fund, some money for this, but in the long run, more ideas comes around, and then that person did this on their quads. They can't afford this part, then they're miserable because like just that single little thing stopped them from realizing that dreams, you know, even though it's a useless dream, it doesn't serve any purpose. You don't need to follow anyone. Like Rick and Morty's, when he says like, stop following people, be your own person. You're strong enough and smart enough to be your own person. Well, I know that it's not given just to everybody to be that, to be able to do that, but at least have the decency not to follow up in their other people's financial dismay, so you don't end up in financial dismay. That is the part of what I say fashion. You don't need the latest piece of jacket, the latest piece of boots. That's the last fashions and this and that. When the one that you have is already good enough, it's already keeping you warm enough, and so on and so on. You don't need to change every year. When it comes to peer pressure will play a lot on how someone succeeds and how someone strives in life. Let's say the biggest cancer of our society is Facebook, and Facebook puts out there what people think deep inside, and they think that it doesn't have any repercussion, any side effect, but it does. Some girls will go to great extent to look pretty, buy the latest clothing, buy the latest shoes, and then on the Friday or on the Saturday she will wear all her makeup and all her clothes and put it on Facebook, and she expects some gratification. So that's what we call virtual gratification. She puts a picture there, like 10-15 pictures of herself, and then she expects people to comment on that and say like, oh, you look awesome, that's pretty cute, blah 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 blah. Well, those are all shallow comments. They're just putting comments like this on Facebook, on that person's page, to make sure that they raise up that person's self-esteem, but in fact it doesn't do anything positive at all, because it's not necessary. You don't need this. You don't need to buy the latest clothing, put it on your credit card, not be able to pay for it, and all of this and all this shallowness just to expect someone's approval. Just take an example. My young friend Cynthia. She's a very cute 23-year-old woman. She's chubby, but not unreasonably. She's very, very beautiful for her size, and I really like her. She's very beautiful, and she always put those pictures on Facebook. But those pictures that she puts there, they're not to boost her self-image or anything, but I feel that she puts their pictures there to feel more appreciated, because in life she doesn't get much people around her that are positive, and they try to influence her positively. I know I do, because I consider myself her uncle, and I always support her, and I'm always cheerful for her, and I try to support her as much as I can, as a good uncle would be, because I worked with her for 4 years, and those people I work with for 4 years at Mastervox, I consider them part of my family. And the example what I'm trying to say is that what she does on Facebook is not for shallowness, for anything like this. It's just that she's not the trendy type, and so on and so on. So I'm losing my train of thought because I didn't have breakfast. Compared to those shallow young women that only put those pictures there and go out to these extents to do all these things just to be put in awe, like, oh, you're so beautiful, blah 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 blah, just to make sure that her ego is flattered properly. And I heard on Facebook many times that some of those young women, they didn't get like the attention they wanted on Facebook. They didn't get any like or any shit like this, and they were so depressed from that they end up killing themselves. And two of my young friends that I back in 2012, they were on Tumblr and Facebook, and it happened the exact same thing. They were looking for attention because their parents didn't give them any attention, and they were seeking attention from older people. And on Tumblr, I was probably the only one that was older enough to see what was going on, and I always tried to reassure them that there was a certain level of what they were doing was okay, and it wasn't. They didn't need it to go through all these extents and seek all this attention. And they got so depressed from those media blog, Facebook and Tumblrs and all the other ones, that they end up killing themselves. And one was 16, the other one was 21. You know, they just killed themselves because they didn't get any attention at all. And this is why I say I call these things the cancer society. Peer pressure in fashion. If you're not in fashion and it's cool, you're not popular, you're not hip, you're not accepted. And that is both of them together, peer pressure and fashion. And it's just crushed your mind and crushed your soul and brings you down because you're not getting the support and the positivity from your friends or from the people you consider your friends. And I always say that if in order to have friends you need to abide to certain rules and certain fashion, they're not your friends. A real friend will accept you no matter what, no matter how you dress. Even if you're a punk with pink color hair and green color hair and all these metal things on your face, your friend should accept you the way you are. That's what friends are. Peer pressure people, they say like, oh no, that's not the norm. It's not okay, you know. No, we don't like that. Change. Well, if people, they want you to change for them, they're not your friends. Don't fall for peer pressure. It will only bring more misery and more grief, and for adults as well, it will bring out depression and it will bring down economic instabilities because you want more stuff and more crap. So this is why society is failing at the game of life, because people, like I say in another video, priorities and values, people don't put what's priority and values first. They put what other people think are the important priorities, and that's what makes them fail. And then brings depression, brings peer pressure, brings spendings, brings failure. So if I could shortly resume, don't fall for peer pressure and fashion, no matter how old you are. You're your own person. There is only one of you. Unfortunately, when you're in the crowd, you're just one drone and one sheep among the other. The only difference that stands you out in a crowd is how tall your head stands up. When you have self-confidence and you have strength, inner strength, and you don't need people's approval, you don't need to stand out of the crowd, then you know that you succeeded. It's not because this guy has a Jeep and this one has a quad that you need a Jeep and you need a quad. You don't need to hang with these people. If you need something that's going to cost you a lot of money to hang out with these people, it's not necessary. You don't need that kind of friendship. You don't need these people. Me and my best friend, we've been friends for 25 years. We had our ups and downs in our personal lives, but for both of us, it never stops us from being friends. I don't care that my friend doesn't have the top car or the top SUV. I don't care that he doesn't live in a house or he doesn't have this or that. I care for him. And when he calls for my help, that's what I'm here for. I actually go and help him. I don't care if it costs me money to go and help him. That's what friends are for. So I hope this was somewhat instructive and it help you a little bit. That's what those videos are for, to open people's eyes and mind on what we can do to fix society's failure. On this note, have a good day, everybody.